everyone, I'm Ananda, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a traveling altar. And traveling altars, like the name states, are great for people who travel for business a lot and they want to be able to take an altar with them to do their practices on the road. They're also great for children. When I was 9 years old, my parents actually made a traveling altar with me, and this is it right here, and I still have it and use it to this day. Other reasons you might want to make a traveling altar is if you know someone who's going to college or you're going to college yourself. They're great to have with you so you can do your practice in your dorm room, or even if you're in a small apartment where you don't really have room for a traditional altar but you still want to be able to do your practices in front of an altar. So in this video, I'll go over the steps you need to make the altar as well as the supplies that are needed. But first, it's always a good idea when you're doing something like this to start out with the 7-line prayer. Since it's such an auspicious activity, we want to invite Guru Rinpoche to be here with us and collect as much merit while we're doing this as possible. So feel free to pause the video right now and do the 7-line prayer or another practice or dedication, and then start it up and we'll get going on the video. So now the supplies that are needed for the altar. The first supply you're going to need is a box. And you can find boxes that will work in many, many different locations. A few boxes that I've collected, this particular one is actually a cigar box. And you can go into a cigar shop and they'll oftentimes have a ton of empty boxes that they're either going to be willing to sell to you for cheap, I got this one for $5, or maybe even give away. But the two most important things when you're looking for a box are the fact that it has a hinges so that you can open and close it easily, and a latch so that it can stay closed. You also want to keep in mind the size and weight of the box. If you're going to be traveling with it, you're generally going to want to go with a smaller, lighter box. If it's going to be something like for your apartment or house, and it's not going to be moving too much, then it's alright to go with a little bit bigger, heavier box. So this is the cigar box, and I actually have already put some fabric on the inside. So you can kind of see what that would end up looking like. Another box that I think would be awesome for a traveling altar is this photo box. Now it already comes with a space in the front so you could easily insert a picture, and the inside is conveniently already covered in fabric. So this would be awesome to use for a traveling altar and very easy to put together. The next box I have, I actually found at a yard sale, and it was originally a Bible box, but we're going to convert it into a traveling altar. And this one would be used for an apartment or a dorm room because it is bigger and heavier and you're probably not going to want to travel with it. But it's a very nice box and there's tons of room on the inside to decorate for your traveling altar. Now, for my purposes, I will be traveling with this altar, so I really can't have a really heavy one. So this particular box I got from Michael's. It's very inexpensive, very light, and it's a pretty good size for what I need it for. As you'll notice, the original color was this really light wood. So all I did was took some wood stain, stained the front and sides and the back, and so now it looks a little bit nicer with the stain on it. And we will be covering the inside, so don't worry if the stain leaks through. Now let's go over the supplies that you're going to want to have collected in order to make your traveling altar. The first is your fabric that you're going to cover the inside with. I have several different examples. You're probably going to want to stick to a traditional fabric with traditional prints and colors. If not, you can go like the velvet fabrics I showed you, either black, white, burgundy, or gold. Those always look nice in the altar. So this is the first example. The second example I have is this beautiful gold with dragons on it. And the third example is the one that I will actually be using today for my altar. And the fabric you can easily pick up at Walmart, Michael's, Joann's, or anywhere else that sells fabric. It's also very easy to find online, and oftentimes you can get it shipped to your house for free. So once you've chosen your fabric, here are some other supplies that you're going to need. You'll need some rope, and we'll use this to outline the edges of our box and cover any kind of seams that we may have from cutting the fabric. You can get rope in different colors and styles as well as thickness. The thicker the rope is, the more it will cover, so if there's any little mistakes, you'll be easily covered. You'll need glue to glue everything down. Either a sticky glue or a hot glue gun would work well. If you have any pictures that you might want to put on the outside or inside of the box. You're also going to want, if in addition to, or if you don't have pictures, a little statue, and I'll be using this statue on the inside of mine. And then also flowers, and I'll use these flowers to flank on either side of the Buddha just to decorate it a little bit, and they're almost like an offering. And then anything else you think you might want to put on the inside of your altar. You can use some small gems or some stones. So it's really, this altar is going to be yours, and ultimately you'll be the one using it. So choose stuff that fits your style, fabric that you like, and accessories that you're going to want and you're going to enjoy looking at every time you use your traveling altar. Okay, so now we're ready to put our altar together. The first thing that we're going to do is cut out and glue the fabric onto the inside of our altar. Now, you can either try and measure the fabric and draw on it to cut it, but the particular way I like to do it is to use a piece of printer paper, stick it in, and you can draw kind of like a pattern, and then that will help you cut out your fabric and make sure that it's the right size. And keep in mind, this doesn't have to be perfect because we will be covering these corners with some of the rope, so that if you make any little mistakes, it's not a big deal. Now that we have our pieces for the box cut, I've already glued in one side, and now we're going to glue in the next side. So now I have this background and the sides glued in, but as you can see, some of the seams aren't exactly perfect, so that's what this cord is for. We're going to take the cord and glue it into the corners, and that way you'll cover the seams, and it also gives a little bit more of a decorative feel. Alright, and there, now you can see that both the back and the sides are glued in. And one thing that's nice about this glue is that it does dry clear. So don't worry if you can see a little bit of the white spots, because they will eventually dry clear. So now that our back is done, we can move on to adding everything else into our box. So now that the inside of the box is finished, I don't want to have the Buddha sitting so low in my box. I'd like the Buddha to be up a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I have this spool of thread, and that's going to give me a nice throne for the Buddha to sit on. But of course, I'm going to have to cover it. So as you can see, I've already placed one of our flower gardens, and now I'm going to do the other on this side. Okay, so now that our rocks are in place, I have these flowers that I'm going to use to put in, and I'll just cut some off. Okay, so now I want to add some gems around the Buddha. So I've cut myself this little pattern here that I'm going to put behind. And this is to help me make a good circle. And then I picked up these little gems that are actually just peel and stick. And I'm going to take them and place them just on the edge of this paper because I'll end up pulling this paper out when I'm done. Alright, so as you can see, my traveling altar is now done. I decided to put a wooden Om that I have over here just to add a little bit more decoration. And keep in mind when you're making yours that there's a lot of room to add stuff and to decorate and to make it your own. Another thing to keep in mind is that you're probably going to want to bring some small bowls with you when you travel. To use to open and close your altar and to do your practices with. And what I've found that works the best are small sewing thimbles, that you usually put over your finger, because you can stack them and actually store them right in your traveling altar and then take them out to use them whenever you need them. Also keep in mind that this is an altar, so if you're traveling with it, you don't want to just put it in your checked luggage or throw it in a backpack. You want to treat it with respect and never put it underneath the seat of the person in front of you if you're flying. So just keep that in mind, and good luck making your own personal traveling altar.